Good evening, everybody. Welcome to PSGL for another social race on the PlayStation platform. This time, it is around the Circuit of the Americas for the United States Grand Prix. This time, it is a social race with a bit of a twist because we are going to have a sprint qualifying following what the drivers were doing, of course, at the British Grand Prix. All these drivers will have been sweating the game. I can tell you what, we're definitely sweating here in the commentary box. My name is Luke Etheridge. Alongside me once again is Sam Thompson. Sam, how are you doing?
Good evening, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm doing absolutely great. I'm very excited for tonight. It's my first comms of F1 2021, and I think it's the same for yours as well, Luke, since you did buy the game today. So obviously so, unless you did something earlier today. But we're at the United States Grand Prix, and it's an interesting race today, of course. A social race, so nothing's on the line, no points, no championship or anything. But this is a good way for some drivers to test out their pace compared to some other drivers, and there's a lot of competition for us to dwell on tonight.
Yeah, definitely. It should be a pretty interesting race indeed. Hopefully we'll see some good action, and the drivers are already starting to get ready for this qualifying session. Then 18 minutes qualifying it is going to be, and then a 5-lap sprint race around this circuit, and then a 28-lap 50% distance race. So hopefully we'll get some good action.
Yeah, we should get some good action here, of course, inspired by the British Grand Prix idea, of course, with the sprint race and the actual race. We've got the same thing here tonight, a bit different, obviously, of course, with it being 5 laps and not, well, approximately 25%, because obviously the Grand Prix, the British Grand Prix had about a 25% sprint race. This is only 5 laps, so these drivers will be justing for position, and it is going to be their qualifying. This is the qualifying for that sprint race, though, where all these guys will be looking to place themselves up the field. And as we see now, obviously on our screen, look at some of the names on this grid. We've got the champion of the PS side in Wilson Hughes here tonight again, but this time in the AlphaTauri and not the McLaren. Midnight as well, the winner of last time out, and there's a lot of guys as well who looked very good in the last one. Jordan and Joost to be obviously of mention, finishing in second and third behind Midnight, and there's a bunch of others here who we haven't seen so far. I'm looking at obviously Casper, who is hosting this event, so big thanks to him. Obviously PSGL as well, and of course the PSGL F2 champion VRT Balliner is here tonight as well, so there's a lot of names to feast upon. I'm hoping Luke is here still. Well, I think he's disappeared or something's happened. Yep, that must be Luke's end. So he's not here for now. So it's only going to be me. So I believe we're on board with Wilson Hughes. So we'll just stick on board with him for now then, if that's the case. A few technical difficulties on Luke's end. He did tell me about that. But Wilson will be the first driver we'll be able to view upon as he starts his lap on this United States circuit as he goes into turn 1, and it's pretty decent through there. Of course, a big mistake for Wilson Hughes early on in the last race, obviously showing that this is not a game for the light-hearted. A lot of drivers could be making mistakes, including the champions of this division, as he swings it through these corners through sector 1 right now as he goes into sector 2, looking very quick, of course, as you would expect from the PSGL F1 champion, as he goes through now towards turn 11 and on to the back straight here, as he'll have DRS open nice and easy for Wilson Hughes so far. And the first laps should be coming to an end very soon. But Wilson Hughes, as he comes into turn 12 then, and nice and easy on the brakes. No mistakes so far for the AlphaTauri driver at the moment, as he comes through this tricky section, turn 13, turn 14, and of course turn 15 as well. Be very careful on the throttle. Easy to make a slight misjudgment on the throttle as it comes through the long right-hander of turn 16, turn 17, and turn 18. 2 more corners to go, then braking where the black box is right there, and then turn 20 to finish off the lap. Ashbest comes across the line. He's the first one to finish a lap to 130.8. Has Wilson dispatched him? He has clearly dispatched him with a 129.8 there. So just waiting for Luke to get back. I'm not entirely sure where Luke has gone, but he did say he was having a few troubles earlier on. So hopefully he will be back very soon. And I'm guessing he's now active, so he's just looking for someone. As drivers continue to finish their laps, Jordan comes across the line. He goes third place in the Red Bull. As we look further down, who is finishing a lap? Marcus Towler is finishing a lap now, and he has gone 6th place. So that was actually Law. Okay, that was my bad there. Marcus Towler isn't actually even on a lap at the moment. As Duncan is being viewed, this is very difficult for all of us, of course. But Duncan's being viewed. Is he on a lap? I think he's on an in lap. He has done a lap, but it was obviously invalidated. So not really much action going on now for now. And obviously, as Lucas said in the chat, a few technical difficulties. He should be back in a few minutes. But early on, in the chat, guys, let me know who has surprised you from these opening laps. Of course, we do have to respect these are only bankers and people probably haven't put in their proper pace. But let me know, guys, in the chat, is there anyone so far you've looked surprising, or is there any sort of driver you think is out of position or got more to prove in this qualifying? As I go back to Kryptonite, he's just started a lap. Everyone seems to be in the pits now for now, so there's a lot of difficulty for us at the moment. But we do obviously have many people on a lap at the moment, finishing their laps coming into the pit lane. As Fabi, okay, that's interesting. Fabi goes 2nd place here, dispatches the Alpha Tauris from the front row. Midnight goes down to 3rd place there. So Midnight, looking quick again, is the Alpha Tauri and Thai driver from CRG. He's looking very quick after his last win, probably very confident as well after that social race a couple of days ago. And as Lars has just stated, Wilson at the moment is clear of everybody. And I mean, it's evident, isn't it? 4 attempts, pretty much clear of everyone at the top. Wilson Hughes absolutely showing why he is the PSGL F1 champion, why he's the guy to beat at the moment at this United States circuit. And this is a track that I do believe he does like, but it is obviously a track that all these drivers should obviously adjust to, of course, as proper drivers. That some are obviously looking to get to F1 esports this year, of course, as well. Obviously looking at the likes of Wilson Hughes as well, who will be looking for esports as he turns that eligible age to be a part of that. Kryptonite then comes across the line. He goes P7 in between Casper and Ash Best there with a 1 minute 30.7. Decent lap there from Kryptonite in the Alfa Romeo as he has just finished his lap. We're looking at Bankai Bullet. I'm sorry if I have said Bankai or Bankai Bullet, who's now at the back, but he hasn't set a lap. There's still 4 drivers yet to set a lap at the moment. I think there's a bunch of people haven't set their proper laps. I'm looking at Corsair and Tony DC there. I wouldn't have thought they would be representative. But Bankai Bullets looks like he could be on for a decent lap time at the moment as he comes through Sector 3. Remember, this lobby is no assist as well. So that means no line, no ABS, no traction control, none of those assists. So all these guys are running the elite assists, and that's no assists. Well, the elite settings, should I say, as Bankai Bullet looks like he hasn't invalidated. He went a little bit wide there as he comes towards the line now, as he finishes his lap then as a 1:31.8, but I reckon there probably was some time as he did go a bit wide in the final 2 corners. As I'm just still trying to find someone, it's very difficult at the moment. Everyone seems to be now starting their next laps. Duncan is on a lap. He's coming through Sector 1 right now, swifting the car from left to right at the moment through these corners. Very easy to make a mistake through these corners, very easy to find a lot of time on these corners as well, as a little bit of a drift through that final corner up the exit of that turn, and he comes into turn 11 now to come onto the back straight. It's all full throttle now to the next turn, down to turn 12. It's going to be a long, long ride now for Duncan in the Williams here tonight. He was in the Alfa Romeo last week. Perhaps he's looking for a different change of fortune from last week as he breaks at the 100-meter board onto the inside to the outside of the curb there, and then through this tricky sector, through this tricky couple of corners through sector 3 at the start. As he goes now to the left, it's very tricky to get on the throttle here, can easily lose the car. This is where the tyres are starting to scream up a little bit at the end of the lap. Now coming through turn 16, 17 and turn 18. Again, brake at the black box as late as you can. Go as wide as you can. Get as much as you can from the corner. And through the final turn, DRS wide open for Duncan. He goes P2 right behind Wilson, who obviously was his championship rival last season. But Wilson Hughes, he's up by quite a margin, 1/10, and oh, he's invalidated. He's probably been put off there by VSR Joost, who goes quickest at the moment, a 1:29.760. And remember, this was the guy at Britain last week who got pole position. So Joost looking quick again here at the United States. Still a lot of time to go. And remember, Wilson Hughes has only set one lap, and he's going to be looking to get back to the top as soon as he can.
Yes, definitely. Apologies, everyone, for the slight issues that we were having there. Hopefully they won't present themselves again for the rest of the session. But Hughes fastest, Wilson second, and Duncan third. The top three in the F1 Championship last season are the top three at the moment in this session. We've just seen World Rally go into 10th position there, the F2 driver from last season. Let's see if we've got anyone else be able to put in some improvements. Midnight getting well out of the way there. I think it was Fabi he was trying to stay well clear of. No, in fact, it was the other Ferrari of Ash Best, but Fabi and Ash pretty close together then. And of course, let's not forget, Sam, it's all preset setups tonight, so they're not able to do anything fancy with the setups. We know drivers love adapting every little bit of the card. Kind of limited tonight to those 5 default ones on the game. So you imagine, apart from changes to the diff and the brake bias, which could be very important on this game, almost identical setups out there.
Well, yeah, considering we've seen obviously a lot of world record time trial laps, for example, with the blurred out differential and brake bias. Of course, we're not going to mention anyone because we've seen a lot of people do them. Obviously, that seems to be quite important this game then for these drivers, and obviously to get right, that it even deserves its own secrecy as Wilson Hughes goes back to the top then. He looks like a tough cookie to beat. That's on worn tyres as well, so that's probably not all his potential, but they haven't got much to play with the setup, as you said. So in terms of equal, this is probably as close as you can get. The closest you would get if you just literally narrowed it down to one setup and one setup only, which you can do. But the preset does allow a little bit of freedom and a little bit of preference for these drivers to pick from. And, well, going by the trend, it seems like preset 2 will likely be the one that a lot of drivers have gone for. But again, I'm not too sure. Some drivers perhaps have a different driving style and perhaps have chose a different preset here tonight.
Yeah, definitely. I have just though checked for Twitter chat as you were saying that, and it turns out Casper, who is the host tonight, he was the one who decided it was going to be presets, and he's also the man who's forgot to set it to presets only. So I think those that have put a bit more time in might be the ones that you see tonight, putting in some pretty decent lap times. Kryptonite, he's up slightly in through the first 2 sectors, a huge slide there through that triple apex right-hander towards the end of the lap. I'll be very surprised if he ends up on his personal best as he comes through 19 and 20. Of course, Formula 1 cars reduced downforce this year, and he does improve ever so slightly into 13th place, but something the drivers are going to have to get used to on this game. There seems to be parts of the circuit where understeer is a lot more prevalent, and parts of the track where, especially through the higher speed corners, you do get quite a bit more oversteer all of a sudden, and that brake bias adjustment does seem to be more important. We've seen drivers already on time trials blurring it out when they've been posting it on Twitter because they don't want others to get any little hints ahead of the league racing season.
Yeah, and of course, it's happy to see that that's more important, because last game everyone would run 50 differential, 50 brake bias, and, you know, maybe narrow changes throughout their campaign, throughout their race and everything. Maybe minor changes to the brake bias, perhaps when you've got worn tyres, for example. But really, it's nice to see that they've got that, because it's more of an effect on the drivers, and it gives the drivers more to think about when they're making their setups. They don't have this simple sort of They don't have this simple sort of, we know what this is going to be. They have to actually calculate and master it properly. And there's another thing of the setup that these guys will have to recognize very quickly. There's one thing I do have to say, though. The timer is going down very quickly. 4 minutes to go. It keeps appearing on and off because of the yellow sectors, which perhaps is not the best for Codemasters to put that there, to be honest, because that's kind of covering the timer, which is making this a bit anticlimactic. But I'm watching Marcus Towler right now. He is yet to set another lap. I think he's only set a banker lap. Him in the Alpine right now, a little slide out the exit of the corner. He does go quicker, and he does go into P8 there. I think someone just retired. Someone crashed it in the wall or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think I saw Falconardi, he was the latest retirement, and I thought for a split second there I saw a wheel in the middle of the circuit. I don't know whether I was imagining things or not, but anyway, that is what's happened. We've got Tony here struggling quite a bit, it seems, to be able to get the car around this circuit. A 138.032 at the moment. It is equal cars, but he is currently driving it a bit more like what we've seen the Haas do this season, so hopefully he is able to find a bit more pace in the final 3 minutes. As there we go, we do get another yellow flag, and it is Wilson, Just and Duncan, top 3 from last season in PSGL F1. Wilson was the champion. He's top at the moment. Just second, Duncan third. Fabi, the only other driver to get underneath 1 minute 30 at this moment in time. Now, let's not forget it. This is only going to decide the grid for the 5-lap sprint race. So, unlike the real F1 sprint race, which, let's be honest, wasn't the most exciting race we've ever had, this one should be absolutely frantic, because you're going to have free tyre choice for the final race. You're going to want to start as high up as possible. That alternate strategy, you can try it at the front of the field if you want, and obviously you've not got as much to lose. It's only a social race. You might as well have a bit of fun with yourself.
Oh yeah, most certainly. These guys will probably treat it like it's a normal 5-lapper that these guys like to do within league racing, and of course, this is only going to set the grid temporarily. What really sets the grid is that race. So if they are taking it seriously, they are probably going to take it with a pinch of salt, a bit of caution to keep in their position. One simple spin can put them at the back of the grid for the race. But, as you said, Luke, it is likely to be more frantic. It is likely to be more exciting because there isn't exactly much to lose in this lobby. It's really just a test to see how your pace is against a few others. But even some drivers don't tend to show up properly and tend to hide little things away from their league racing. So they kind of come out with a bang and surprise people when they get there. Or they can obviously improve from their times here shown. But a lot of these drivers, they're very good. They're very strong. They're going to be very close, and there will be a lot of excitement for this sprint race, which is only 5 laps as well. It's not like it's 25%. There's no management of anything like tires, there's no stress for any of these drivers to manage. They will just go flat out and they'll be going for it. They'll be going for the victory, and they will be looking to secure themselves the highest position they can possible for the actual race this evening.
Yeah, Just and Duncan seem to have been going for a second out lap, as almost as if they're going to try and push a bit harder on their next one, maybe to try and get the tyres up to temperature a bit more, maybe feeling that they weren't quite in the right window. Wilson Hughes, he's invalidated on his fast run, as has Fabi, as has Jordan. They are just about going to have enough time, I think, to get all the way around. So it is going to be a frantic finish to this session. Not much time left. Who's going to manage to get their way into that top 10? Ash Best, he's showing all his experience there. He's 11th at the moment in the Ferrari. Bit of a lock-up, very easy to do at that part of the circuit. Extremely easy to just snatch brake there. Nice and smooth through that part of the circuit. None of the slides that we saw Kryptonite have earlier on, and keeps it over to that right-hand side. Best possible line through 19. Got to make sure there's that wheel still in the middle of the track. Hopefully the virtual stewards will remove that before we get to the race, at least, as Ash Best goes up into 7th place. That is likely to be his final run then in the session, and we will be seeing the checkered flag come out very shortly. Wilson's just made it across the line in time. Who else is heading now towards the end of the circuit? And there we go. Checkered flag is out then. Everyone now onto their final laps. Who is going to end up on pole position? Can anyone stop Wilson, Just or Duncan? Maybe we'll see someone who wasn't in F1 last year take the pole.
I mean, It would be quite surprising, but there's a few names obviously that look good. Fabi looks very decent at the moment. Interestingly, Marcus Towler up in ninth place, looking very pacey indeed compared to obviously last game. But he's actually been looking quite good this game, so I give him a lot of hope for this. And he's starting P10 at the moment as he's finished his laps. Duncan and Yost unable to improve, so it does look likely Wilson has pole unless Jordan can come out with a banger, or Fabi. Of course, Fabi has invalidated, so it is all down really to Jordan unless Casper could come out with anything as well. We're not forgetting Casper, of course, as Jordan does go up to 4th place. Now all eyes on Casper. He's up, and he's up by quite a bit as well. But is it enough to dethrone Wilson off top spot? It's not, as he goes into 4th place there. Casper, brilliant lap from the Dutch driver there to go into 4th place. And it looks like then qualifying is over, because I don't think Ash Best is going to improve from 11 seconds down, and also he has invalidated. So that's your grid for the 5-lap sprint race then.
It is indeed, and Wilson Hughes, just to sort of show everyone that he's still got it on this game, has decided to go even faster. 1:29.543 to finish off the qualifying session, over 2 steps ahead of Hughes. Duncan will be 3rd, Casper 4th, Jordan 5th, and that will be your top 5 then for the sprint qualifying session. A 5-lap race around this American circuit should be absolutely fantastic. They've only got 3 laps, of course, to use for DRS, so there's none of this, oh, we'll wait until DRS gets activated and then we'll start going for it. You've got to go for those moves straight away from lap 1, turn 1, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be difficult how they play this, because it's going to be very, very quick, this race now. It's only going to last really about 7 minutes, so all these drivers have really got to prepare for a very quick race, and it's just going to be frantic, I reckon. We've seen this before, like in league races, well, not league races, but we've seen this before in 5-lappers sometimes, with some of the competitive guys on the grid like we've got here today. Probably a very competitive grid, I have to say. A lot of drivers here who will be looking at F1, obviously the top 5, Midnight as well, Ash Best, Balliner, maybe even the likes of Fabi, Kryptonite, Marcus, Tala, Nardi. You don't know, but that is a very competitive grid. But the time seems to be quite different compared to last week. It seemed to be much closer, but we do obviously have to think about how far Wilson has got that pole position by 0.2 of a second. The Scot is absolutely flying here at USA.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, the top 12 separated by a second. We might see things get a bit closer as people get more experience with the game, but even that is still obviously incredibly close. We've just got incredibly high standards to what we're used to seeing here in PSGL. And if you do want to sign up, sign-ups are still open now for the new season. There is the new calendar. USA will be on that calendar as well. On the 28th of October to the 1st of November, Brazil will be the final race of the season as well. There's some great tracks are there on that calendar. Won't be seeing any of the new ones that are coming on the game until season 30, perhaps. And that'll be interesting to see how the drivers cope with Imola, Portimao, and Jeddah once they come to the game.
Yeah, well, especially. Oh, okay. We've got the lights out now, Luke. We haven't got a formation lap for this 5-lap race. Kind of a bit caught off guard here.
Yeah, there we go. Lights out and away we go then. And Wilson Hughes gets a good start there. Duncan trying to hold off Casper around the outside as a car absolutely sending it up the inside. I think that was Balliner going for it there, and he has to chop himself off to avoid sending someone into the barriers, into the hospital, and getting a few naughty tweets sent at him on Twitter. Balliner then in 9th place. Midnight in 8th. There's a bit of ghosting going on there. Ashen, I think that was Midnight making a tiny bit of contact, but no more such things to worry about. At the head of the field, Wilson in the lead, Hughes in 2nd. Duncan is in 3rd position at this moment in time. Big changes throughout the field. Some further down. Falcon Nardi going up a few places after crashing in qualifying. Bankai Bullets had a good start. World Valley not doing so well in the lead Haas at the moment. And look at that, straight away from Wilson. He does not want to be giving Hughes to slipstream. We've got all sorts of snaking going on down the straight. They've definitely been picking up a few habits from those that were at Silverstone.
Yeah, and I mean, we're going to see a lot of these overtakes. We've seen a lot already in that first set. The Casper getting by Jordan as well there, I think, just at that corner. At least they were going side by side. One of the well, one of the Red Bulls, but I've just realised Duncan's not even in a Red Bull. He's in a Williams, so I got caught off guard there. But there's a lot of cars at the front in a train, but towards the back of the grid, there's a lot of jostling around at the moment between Ashbest, Midnight, Ballina, Marcus Towler, and Nardi as well. They all seem to be following each other very well indeed. And look at this then. Marcus looking to go down the inside of Ballina there. And he's got the move done there up to 9th place, but the switchback works well for the McLaren driver. But everyone seems to be very close and very ambitious to move up some positions. We've seen a lot of action so far from the positions, but there's not been much changes considering it's only been one lap.
No, Kryptonite and Falcon Nardi battling there. Krypton clearly ignoring everyone who's telling him in the chat to get back to GT Sport. Gets the move done before the S's just loses the car a bit in the dirty air. That he's still going to be quite severe, of course, on this game. We'll see what it's like on F1 2022 when the new car comes around, but we've got plenty of racing to go on this game there, as Midnight just a bit scruffy there through that part of the circuit, and Ballina straight up the inside. Looks like Ballina was going to lose a position at the end of the last lap. Halfway through lap 2, he's managed to gain one. He is now up into 8th place, but can he hold off this train of cars behind him? Because the top 7 definitely look like they're escaping, Sam.
Yeah, a little bit of battling has caused these guys to fall a little bit behind, and this battle isn't over yet. Here comes Midnight, and is he going to send it down the inside? He thinks better of it. He wants to just close that gap up to the top 7 and make sure that they can continue in that train, because Midnight knows, and well, I'm pretty sure most of these drivers know from now on, really, how good and how powerful the Slipstream, DRS, and the ERS can be around some of the tracks here. So Midnight obviously just sitting behind, but has he made a mistake here? Because Ballina is getting away, and in fact is out of DRS of Midnight, so surely a mistake from Midnight, although Marcus Towler still not giving him much help by battling him to the outside. A little bit naughty there to still keep battling despite using track limits. And here comes Kryptonite. Is he going to overtake them both? Oh, they're pretty wide into this corner, and Kryptonite's got it. He's got it done down the inside into 9th place from 11th. And I think Marcus has Midnight as well. So Midnight just falling back a little bit, and Ballina has completely escaped from these guys now.
Yeah, we think Midnight might have already actually picked up a tiny bit of damage, and of course no point pitting in this race. Duncan gets himself a 2-second time penalty. You do see a few penalties around this circuit, and obviously being a 5-lapper, it is only going to be a 2-second penalty, and at this moment in time that would drop him down to 5th position as the DRS train begins. Then Wilson going defensive, and Hughes deciding, you know what, I don't want to waste any time following you here, and now he decides to hop back into the slipstream, stays in that position for now. Further back, Ashbest and Farby, the two Ferraris swapping around. Ash goes up into 6th position. Kryptonite on the back of Marcus. Midnight, you can see, dropping with that damage. Falcon Nardi now managing to get ahead of him into 12th position. Oh, and Laws round. Midnight's now definitely got front wing damage, as we don't need a chat to tell us about that. And he's retired from the session. He'll be starting from the back of the grid. It was Sergio Perez in the senior Red Bull team who had all the problems in the first ever F1 sprint qualifying. This time it's a junior team driver. Midnight, first retirement from this sprint race.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for Midnight. He looked to be having some really nice battles, obviously, with the guys in the midfield there. And, you know, obviously Midnight, the winner, that's not going to be good for him going into the race starting at the back of the grid, as he does obviously have to travel all the way back up to reach the drivers who perhaps he would see is his sort of pace at the moment. But obviously, we don't know how everyone's going to be with Midnight. Midnight is probably going to be aggressive, looking to get past as quickly as possible. But when you're in these battles intensely, with some of these drivers, of course, the likes of Ballina, the likes of Marcus, Kryptonite, and, you know, in that midfield especially, it can get very tight. And I tell you what, the damage on this game, it is very punishing. You get damage and, well, you'd either have to make a pit stop or you're going to fall back. And we saw that at Midnight. Midnight, one of the drivers, looking like a prospect, looking like he could be winning some races potentially this year in PSGL. And, you know, a little bit of damage has cost him absolutely massively. And a little bit more, well, it's took him out the race. And, well, on to the race for him then next time around. But on lap 4, Yost has got past Wilson, and this is what we said about the DRS, but I'm kind of surprised. Seeing Wilson's pace in qualifying, he hasn't exactly replicated it in the race, but mind you, we do obviously have to remind ourselves how good that slipstream and that DRS tends to be with this game. And obviously Yost probably using a little bit more ERS, has he? No, roughly about the same. So it really hasn't been easy for Wilson Hughes with all these guys with that slipstream behind them supporting them. But I reckon Wilson will come back for this final lap now.
Yeah, Hughes there setting the fastest lap of the race, perhaps no surprise, with the DRS. Law dropping further down the order. He's in 17th. Kilcree and World Rally were battling for 14th and 15th. Every position counts, of course. It's not like a normal race where there's no difference between 11th and 12th. It's one extra place on the grid. We've got to remember for all of these drivers. But it is Hughes in the lead. Wilson second. Duncan third. Casper having a pretty good race at the moment. One of the another driver who's got quite a bit of experience, of course, was for the Team Vitality, the Renault team in esports last year, as we have seen a yellow flag in Sector 1, which has cleared itself up. So Casper not doing too bad at the moment in 4th position. And Wilson coming onto the DRS straight, nearly a second behind Hughes. He's going to get the DRS here, but I think no matter how powerful it is and no matter how powerful the slipstream is, it's going to be very difficult, I think, for something to happen. And you can see there, Wilson nowhere near. Tony is retired from the session. I'm not sure if he's just dropped it coming out of turn 1. It has not been an ideal introduction to this social race, and I think to PSGL for him. Kryptonite working his way up through the field. Marcus Towler's been involved in all sorts of battles throughout this race, and again he's battling with Kryptonite. This is going to be one to watch, I think, right up until the checkered flag, and where you can see the most moves happening. Falcon Nardi might be able to chuck his nose in if he fancies it coming through here. They're going to go side by side through this long right-hander. Will quickly break away to see Hughes cross the line to get the victory here in this sprint race. But who's it going to be out of Marcus and Kryptonite? It looks like the Alpines just about managed to get his way ahead. Falcon Nardi trying to get it on the exit as well. Marcus gets a penalty at the end, though, drops him down into 11th. Hughes with the victory. Wilson second. Duncan's penalty dropping him down to 5th. So it's Casper who rounds out the top 3. Jordan in 4th. We said there'd be plenty of action in that sprint race, and definitely proves to be the case.
I would definitely say there was a lot. There's a lot of battling going on, particularly for Marcus there. I bet you he's already sweating right now. Sweating buckets, of course, with the amount of battles he's had really in this race. Obviously with Ballina, with Midnight, with Kryptonite. Went right to the end with Kryptonite, in fact, and unfortunately he beat him out, but obviously got the penalty in the end. So feeling the pressure a little bit there, but that's what you expect from a sprint race. You expect these guys to be going all out, 100%. There's no breaks. There's no sort of moment to mellow for these drivers. They're allowed to go full 100% flat out all the time, and that's what you saw in this race, particularly in that midfield. All these drivers really gave it their all, and now moving on to the race, it's a different sort of thing. There's a lot more strategy to play in, obviously pit stops as well, and all these drivers will have a different sort of scenario going on in their head for this race, whether they'll be quite conservative, whether they'll attack it out early and then leave it out for the rest of the race, or whether they're just going to go flat out again.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see. And like you said, there's a lot more strategy, as in there is actual strategy. In a sprint race, there's not really a lot you can do over 5 laps, apart from just go for it. So it's going to be used on pole position then for the main race. Wilson second, Casper and Jordan on the second row of the grid. Duncan, Ashbest, Ballina, Farby, Kryptonite, Falcon Nardi rounding out the top 10. Marcus just missing out in 11th. Bankai, Panos, World Rally, Law, Kilcree, Marit, Corsair, Tony and Midnight. Tony and Midnight, of course, unfortunately for them, retiring from the session. So they're going to have it all to do from the back of the grid. And if that race is something to go by, Joost might not have been there in qualifying, but once he decided to get past Wilson, there wasn't a lot the reigning champion could do.
Yeah, I think Joost just showed a sort of different character compared to qualifying. And I'm wondering if he made a small mistake, because he looked very quick, of course, last week. And there is something we have learned about this game, really, is that drivers, it's much easier to make a mistake or make something happen and everything. And I wonder if that's what happened to Joost, either that or perhaps Wilson was trying to do something, perhaps knowing that that second place, a good start will get him back in the lead, which obviously does work into that first corner. It's very wide. It's very easy to get an overtake done down the inside. And perhaps that's what Wilson was going for, because that's what Joost was going for before on that first lap. The Mercedes tried to go down the inside of Wilson. Didn't quite work on the first lap, but obviously he eventually did get past the AlphaTauri. But again, it's not as flat out as that sprint race was. So Joost perhaps will be a little bit more conservative at the front, or Wilson alternatively really trying to overtake Yost if he doesn't get done by the first corner. And we are going to see a lot more strategy and a lot more battling involved to do with the pit stops as well, because this isn't a track really for the light-hearted in terms of tyre wear. And with free tyre choice, we are expecting a one stop, but we are also expecting a lot of drivers to perhaps be a little confused about when it's probably the best time to pit.
Yeah, definitely. I think I seem to remember from F1 2020 at least, it was the drivers at the front of the field were sort of stuck between going soft medium, going soft hard. But I wonder now that everyone's going to have that free tyre choice, whether we'll see the majority of the field start on that set of medium tyres and then try and get the softs, of course, towards the end. If you're interested in joining PSGL, like I said, make sure you check out the Discord. Sign-ups end at the end of July, so you've got just under 2 weeks to do it, and you've got to get your sign-up tracks in. And I imagine all these drivers have been practicing time trial, not just for that, but also for the sign-up. 2 TT events, one at, I believe it is now actually at Hungary. No, it is at Spain, sorry. It was Hungary, now it's at Spain, sorry. And USA, and an evaluation race against the AI at Belgium for the drivers to go for. We were talking, while we were rudely interrupted by the lack of a formation lap earlier on, about the which of the new tracks you've been most looking forward to out of Imola, Portimao and Jeddah, because those with a longer memory might remember, I think it was F1 2013, Imola was available as a classic track, but you have to go way back to F1 Championship Edition and F1 2006 when it was actually there as a proper circuit, and Portimao and Jeddah obviously never made it on a Formula 1 game before, and Jeddah, a brand new circuit, so it's not like anyone can bring any experience from any other game. It doesn't really exist at the moment, and it'll be interesting to see how the drivers cope on those new circuits, because overtaking definitely looks to be at a premium at all three of them.
Yeah, well, going obviously by the first races from obviously Portimao, and of course the return of Imola, it does show that overtaking is going to be difficult. But remember, this is F1 2021, the game. This isn't like real life and everything. And although it has been getting more realistic over the years, these guys bring us some exciting racing. And of course, with the cars being equal but controversially equal, as some people may reckon that the cars are not equal, which is a different debate, really. But I'm very interested about the new tracks. It's a new experience for the drivers. Some of them may have driven the likes of Imola and Portimao on other games, and maybe Jeddah. Of course, some people do have Assetto Corsa on PC, for example, as a game they can use to play those circuits. There's also other games which you could probably find them. But I'm just interested to see how Portimao is really out of the three of them. That would be my most favourable one, with obviously the elevation changes and how the drivers just deal with that, because there just seems to be a thing with elevation change and this game, and how it just affects how the drivers will drive. So I'm just very interested to see that, and obviously the turn one as well. With no line, these guys have got a completely different line to learn. Considering real life driving is completely different to this game.
Yeah, most certainly. And looking at the tracks for this season, starting 12th of August, that'll be for the lower tiers on the Thursday, where you'd find me myself if I was signing up for it, at Bahrain, France, Belgium, Netherlands, Italy, Great Britain, Austria, China, Japan, Canada, Mexico, USA, and Brazil. That will be the final race of the season. And I'm seeing China in there. I have noticed a few people, just from experiences I've had with people doing time trial. I've only got this game today and haven't had a chance to really give it a proper go, unfortunately. It seems like China, with the extra understeer at some parts of this game, seems to be a really difficult track. It wasn't the most loved originally. Now I think it could be one of the most disliked on the game.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have disclosed their hatred for it, for China. And I mean, to be honest with you, it's not even on the official calendar of F1, so perhaps that had a reason to do with it. We will never know. But yeah, that seems to be a track that seems to get the most sort of hate or most sort of problems. I've seen a lot of people, I've seen a few people, should I say, talk about Belgium, about the curbs, of course, but how it's a really nice flowing track as well, alternatively. And pretty much most of the tracks on this calendar is either you love them or you hate them, really. And in my honest opinion, I think it's a really strong calendar, a really good calendar, and a lot of challenges for the drivers to race around.
Yeah, definitely. There are some very interesting circuits on there. I think the traditional ending the season at Brazil, I don't think anyone's going to complain too much about that. You've got Spa early on in the season, Bahrain, another one that always seems to produce some good action. Zandvoort, maybe not. If you're nowhere in the chat, he doesn't seem to be the biggest fan of Zandvoort. We saw yesterday how good Silverstone is in real life, and normally games, as we've already discussed, produce much better racing on here. Austria, another one that always seems to produce some really close action, and DRS trains, especially on F1 2020. We'll see if they're in the meta as much on this one. And of course, there's a rumour that we might see a handling model change, so whoever's fast on the game now might not be so fantastic in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, it's a possibility, but we talk about how, I wouldn't say drastic, but how different kind of the handling model is now compared to the end of last game. There is a slight difference. It's not a huge difference, but it is a bit of a difference. And to be honest with you, a lot of the drivers who you saw at the top have adapted quite quickly. Of course, the likes of Wilson, Duncan, Yost, Jordan, etc. And, you know, those drivers do seem to show that same sort of being at the top sort of attitude at the moment. But there has definitely been drivers who we have seen improve like thoroughly, very much so. So there's a lot of drivers we've got to think about here. And of course, you look at the likes of Fabi as well. Like, I mean, you know, comparing to some of the drivers he's been racing with, he qualified pretty highly this time around. So perhaps it is a game where Fabi, for example, could potentially be someone to watch out for. And of course, this is only 20 drivers, and obviously same with Silverstone. There's only 20 drivers. Right now, if Big C was to reply or to give us an approximate amount, there are hundreds of people who have signed up for PSGL for PES this season. So in terms of how prestigious it is to win this amongst, you know, over 400, 500 people perhaps, it's more prestigious than you could ever really get, to be honest. So, you know, to conquer this many people, whoever wins the championship for PSGL on the PS side or even the PC side, of course, you know, it is a pretty big title to win. Let's be honest. And for a lot of these guys, they seem to be getting up there. And, well, if you're in the top tier as well, there could be a few surprises this game.
Yeah, let's not forget we have got another PC invitational esports race as well later on in the week. But for now, it's the turn of those on the PlayStation, and it is their turn around the Circuit of the Americas. The 10th track in the USA used for Formula 1, 5.513 kilometres, 20 turns, plenty of elevation changes, plenty of inspiration from some of the great tracks in the world. Hockenheim, Silverstone, you've got that Istanbul-like triple right-hander as well. Let's have a look at the tyres that everyone is on, as Kilcree and Moritz have always got themselves disqualified from the formation lap, so they're going to be on cold mediums and cold softs respectively. The majority of the field on the mediums, Fabi, Moritz, Cossair and Tony on the softs. Duncan trying something completely different. He's going for a long run on a set of hard tyres.
Well, there's one thing I know about Duncan very well. He loves that alternate strategy. He loves that difference. He loves that change. He loves that attitude to be different. And, well, sometimes it works out absolutely beautifully for him. So that is something he is looking to perfect today. And I think Fabi as well, you have to really give a good shout at as well. Onto the soft tyres, most choosing the mediums. And obviously the strategy, I think, is medium soft. I would believe, but I'm not too sure if that is the correct strategy. But Duncan going for the hards. This could be more of a make or break thing for the Williams driver right now.
Yeah, the game did suggest two-stop strategies, but it looks like the AWS on F1 2021 is as realistic as the AWS in real life. Midnight just coming into the position. He's at the back of the 10th row with his teammate in second with an almost clear run down towards turn one. One of the steepest uphill runs, so you can always brake extremely late into the first corner at this circuit as we wait for the lights to come on. 3, 4, 5 lights. We're underway here in Austin, and what are the starts like? It looks like Wilson's got half a chance of being able to get alongside Used here on his run down towards turn one, really challenging the Mercedes in that AlphaTauri. The Scotsman takes the lead of the race. Jordan down the inside as well. We've got a spinner there. That's Fabi who's facing the wrong way. Hopefully he goes. Hopefully everyone manages to avoid him. It doesn't look like anyone's collected him, but a perfect start from Wilson. Used in second, Jordan in third. I think that is Falcon Nardi going spinning around in the background as well in the Williams there on a set of the medium tyres. Not sure if he's managed to pick up any damage, but quite a... we expected a frantic start to the race, at least in the sprint race, with only 5 laps. We've had quite a bit of chaos in this full 28-lap race as well. Wilson, though, got an absolutely fantastic getaway, takes the lead of this race. We'll see if Used can replace it, well, can repeat, I should say, his tricks from earlier on, as now it's Marcus Towler who seems to have had a bit of a problem coming through turn 11.
Yeah, there's a lot of big good starters here. Midnight He's fighting for P9 already. Like, what? Midnight's coming here. He's P9 already, pretty much. Well, P10. He was fighting for P9, but in P10 right now, he's had an absolute crazy start. But there's been a lot of people with crazy starts. There's another spinner here. That is Tony who spun now. So I think Law as well has been caught up in that. So a lot of different spinners off the start of this race. A lot of these drivers struggling for the traction then at the start. But Midnight up to P10 already. That is absolutely insane from the Alpha Tauri driver right now. But obviously bad luck really for Fabi, of course, spinning on the soft tyres, which really looked at his start, looked quite good. And here comes, of course, the telemetry glitch that we all know as commentators, and it is not exactly desirable, is it?
I mean, I had my fingers crossed, but don't know why am I not surprised. It says a lot, though, that Farbid actually now, I believe he's actually got himself up into 15th, and he was facing the wrong direction at turn 1. That's how much things have gone wrong for quite a few drivers early on in this race. Tony, 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. It is really not going to plan for him whatsoever. On board now with Ballina on the back of Ash Best. I think Duncan actually managed to get, well, I think Ballina got past Duncan, I should say, in the early stages of this race. Perhaps not too surprising. Duncan is probably hoping when the DRS comes, he can just use it to hang on to the back of everyone else, because he's going to have a lot less grip than those ahead of him in these first few laps.
Sure, that's the plan for the Williams driver there. In P9 at the moment, P7 at the moment. The telemetry glitch is absolutely working wonders for me as Duncan there gets a bit of oversteer into the corner. That's obviously rear locking of his brakes there. So Duncan already struggling on those hard tyres, and I think a lot of people did say those hards do feel awful to drive on. I think obviously I was engineering someone from the PC side yesterday, and he was on the hard tyres and he was struggling like mad. But that just seems to be what the problem is. The hard tyres just don't really soothe in very quickly. It's very difficult to find the pace, but Duncan will let that one go. He didn't spin overall or anything. He'll let that go and he'll try to catch up again. But at the front then, we could be looking at an overtake very soon.
Yeah, used all over the back of Wilson. I think he in fact had a tiny bit of rear locking there coming through turn 1. Some of the drivers, there's a bit of a debate at the moment. What's the fastest way around on this game? Some think it's being smooth. Some think you need to have a bit more sliding. Oh, Casper! Big Sean Casper out of the race in the Aston Martin. Huge shock early on. He had such a good result in the sprint qualifying session. We'll go on board with Coast Edge just to see where that car is over on the right hand side there, coming out of turn 2, and that is Casper out of the race. Didn't really see him battling with anyone else, but I'm not quite so sure. We weren't on board with him on that car. Maybe just another driver caught out by the lack of traction and a bit of oversteer coming through that long turn 2.
Yeah, and that's kind of surprising. I wasn't expecting that, especially there. Maybe midway through the corners after the first 2 S's, because people could get caught out by like the orange bumps on the inside there. I was obviously speaking to some of the drivers earlier, and they were saying they were quite scared of that, of them orange curves, especially for Silverstone's experience, where you hit them, you're gone. At Magus and Beckett's, of course, but I don't know what's happened to Casper there. I wonder if he's just hit the inside. The curbs are very deadly on this game, so I wonder if he's just touched the inside. It's caught him a little bit of oversteer and has put him in the wall. So just unfortunate there for Casper, as Nardi I think spins against him. Nardi just not enjoying things at the moment, and obviously Casper would be enjoying things because he's gone. But the top 3 have gone as well. Jordan closing with Yost, and Yost actually, oh no, that was a netcode glitch, and I think we're going to have this quite a bit, aren't we, Luke? Because we had this obviously with Britain, with Jess struggling with the netcode, of course, last week. It seems like it's slightly infecting us again. Hopefully we shouldn't see too much of it as last week, because last week it made us feel like drivers were just basically running off track all the time when they actually weren't.
Yeah, I think what's actually happened with Casper, and to be honest, I've done this so many times, especially since I've had to start using the controller, is he's accidentally left overtake on the exit of the corner, and that extra 150 horsepower from the hybrid system does ask a bit too much of these Pirelli tyres, especially with such a heavy fuel load in the early stages of this race. We're on board then with World Rally in the Haas all over the back of Midnight, and just look how many places Midnight has gained in these early stages. 12 places. He finished off F1 2020 absolutely fantastically, and he looks to be hoping, after a bad sprint qualifying, to start this the same way. He's got World Rally though all over the back of him at this moment in time. Bankai Bullet battling with Fabi, who's trying to work his way up through the field. Fabi, of course, on the soft tyres, as is Moritz behind him. Bankai on the yellow wall mediums in that Aston Martin, which I must say looks absolutely beautiful on this game. So I think I know if I do drive a career, which team I want to be getting my way into pretty early on. And you can just see that dirty air effect. Fabi starting to lose out, although probably not too far away from that changeover point where the mediums start to become the grippier tyre, and those on the softs have to start thinking about when to come in for their first and maybe only stop.
Yeah, it's definitely not far away now for Fabi and Moritz behind him as well, and a bunch of the other guys on the soft tyres. They do look like they're probably not going to be in the best shape in about a couple of laps times as Fabi gets past Bankai Bullet there, and I think also we might see Moritz there soon as Midnight picks up a penalty. He's the first one of all of them to pick up a penalty here at the moment, as he has cruised past Kryptonite now and now has got a bit of free air now to try and catch up to Duncan ahead of him for P6. But Duncan, he is keeping his cool at the moment. He is keeping behind Ash Best. He's sticking with the DRS right now, and right now it's probably the position he wants to be at the moment, behind Ash Best and Ballina as well, who obviously are going to be dropping further away from this front three, because all these three will be just languishing in each other's DRS and really pulling each other away, while Ballina, unfortunately, will not really have that sort of luxury as he is 3.4 seconds behind.
No, Ballina had a pretty good start to the race. Got ahead of Duncan, got ahead of Ash Best as well once the DRS has become active. But now that those top three have just begun to get away, as we saw happen to them so many times last season, they were, I think, safe to say, the three most consistent, maybe across the entire F1 seasons on the PlayStation platform in 26, 27 and 28, as Moritz works his way past Bankai Bullet, who's now got Law for company. Marcus and Midnight, only drivers that have penalties at this moment in time. 3 seconds for all of them as Fabi goes for the IndyCar line there through turn number 19. You will get yourself a warning for that unless you do manage to lift off just the right amount. And as we got familiar to seeing on F1 2020, sort of hit that bit of a stalemate at the front of the field. Not a lot happening. Drivers, of course, just happy to sit back, wait for the pit stops. It is a long race, lots of dirty air, lots of fuel on board. And another thing that hasn't changed from F1 2020, Wilson Hughes in the lead.
Oh yeah, well, we know that for a fact, and you know, as you said, some of the most consistent drivers of PSGL, well, of the entire game, last game, in Wilson and Joost, particularly Jordan as well, very quick and very consistent when he was racing, of course, and Duncan as well, of course, very consistent, although he is obviously a bit behind, but maybe that's down to his hard tyres, but some very consistent drivers at the front, and as you said, Wilson Hughes, there seems to be no change, does there, to his pace at the moment, seeming absolutely rapid at the front, just chilling out there at the moment, but Joost behind him, probably one of the contenders, just looking to give him a little bit of hassle, but right now, just happy to sit behind. He knows he can sit there. He's not losing too much time, but he's also not needing to gain much, so he's just going to sit behind Wilson for now and probably wait till the pit stops and try and absolutely bullet it at Wilson. And, well, something we knew about Joost from the Britain races, he obviously made a mistake coming into the pits of that Britain race. Like, he had a little bit of a moment, I think, on his in-lap to the pits for his pit stop, and he was about 3 seconds down on Midnight, and he gained that back in a few laps and was right on the back of the CRG driver there. So Joost showing some really strong pace at Britain, but, you know, he is Mr. Britain, really, on PlayStation, is Joost, as Wilson picks up a penalty. That's very rare you see that, to be honest. Wilson isn't one of the drivers to get penalties that often, but Joost is a driver. Great, thanks. But Joost is a driver that loves Britain, and this is a track that isn't too far from Britain, of course, particularly the first sector, as there goes Kilcree out of the race. He's had a similar thing happen to him to what happened to Casper, but further on in the track. But you know, some of the most consistent drivers on this grid. This is going to be quite difficult for these drivers to budge, in my opinion, because they're going to be very quick for the entire race.
Yeah, definitely. We've got Ash Best getting close to the back of Ballina. I thought Ballina might actually reel in those top three ever so slightly, but it does seem to be dropping a bit further back. He's now about 5 seconds off the back of Jordan, who, as things stand at the moment, is looking very good indeed without any penalties in that third place out on track. But 3 seconds of penalties for Wilson, 3 seconds for Hughes, and then, as we said earlier, Midnight and World Rally on 3 seconds as well. We've got a yellow flag in sector 3. I think that's Marcus, who's retired in the pit lane. So we are down to just 15 drivers. Unfortunately, it's been quite an attritional race. Drivers getting used to what the damage is like, getting used to what the cars are like. Of course, still plenty of time before we see the first full race of the season. And those top drivers, though, proving that they have got the pace. World Rally, he's in 9th at the moment, all over the back of Kryptonite, just not able to get a move done at this moment. Good performance from CRG Kryptonite. Head steward here at PSGL. I'm sure he's not going to be harsh enough if there is a bit of a rough move on him. I'm sure he's not going to take anyone to the stewards in what is only a social race, but the lobby wanted to race as cleanly as possible, of course. And I don't think we've actually, apart from lap 1, don't think we've really seen too much contact in this race.
No, everyone's been relatively clean and relatively racy as well. A few people was, and there's been a few overtakes. Of course, Midnight being the main one for the overtakes at the moment, moving all the way up to 7th from the back of the grid. Of course, he's had an absolute flyer in this race, and he's closing up to the back of Duncan now. He'll be in DRS quite soon from him. And this train between Ballina, Ashbest, and Duncan just seeming to fall behind the front three as well. Again, Ballina not being aided with the DRS, unlike the top three. Well, Yost and Jordan, as obviously Wilson leading, will not get the DRS. But he's just pulling them along, sort of thing, while Ballina is just sitting on his own right now. He's got a lot of clean air, and he's got Ashbest to defend from, who might have a go at him this lap. But we'll just wait till the pit stops, I reckon, until we start seeing things getting spicy.
Yeah, I do wonder when the soft runners are going to think about coming into the pits. If they're going for the hard tyres, it's probably not too long away. If they're going for the mediums, they'll have to stretch it out another 3 or 4, no, 2 or 3 laps, I think I'll have to say, from the end of this one. Oh, there we go. Farby into the pits then on the soft tyres at this moment in time. End of lap 8, 20 laps to go. Will this be a set of hards for the Ferrari man, trying to salvage something after that spin early on? And there we go. It's going to be the white-walled hard tyres for the Ferrari crew, and the front wing change as well. So Farby will drop, I think, to the back of the field behind Corsair, but we'll see what he can do now that he's got that full complement of downforce. He should be very rapid indeed, and don't be surprised to see him moving up the order in the latter stages of this race. Ash still on the back of Ballina. Can he get a good enough run out of that corner just before the straight, coming out of turn 11? And Ballina, don't know if he's just using a bit of ERS, and looking at how much they've used, Ballina's on 20%, Ash Best is on about 65% at the moment, so not too bothered, the Ferrari man, I don't think, about making that overtake at this point in the race.
Yeah, but if you just on his onboard there, Ballina struggling a little bit with the rear end there through that corner, perhaps getting a little bit of oversteer into that corner, and of course locking at the rear brake brakes as well. So those medium tyres aren't exactly in their best position right now. Perhaps are now starting to worsen off for the McLaren driver and for, of course, the Ferrari driver behind as well. So Ash is just probably going to sit there, really. I don't think he's going to attack Ballina too much. He's just probably going to try and put him under pressure, put him for a mistake as well, because at the moment, whoever's out in top of these two, you know, they will most likely be back at each other again. So Ash probably not worrying about an overtake just now, because he does know that Ballina probably would be able to easily attack him on the next straight, or the next DRS straight.
Yeah, someone who is trying to get an overtake here is World Rally on Kryptonite. Got a 3-second penalty. I thought he'd managed to get the move done there in the DRS, but Krypton was able to defend, so he stays in 8th place for now, and you can just see how much his battling is costing him. 6 seconds almost now. The gap back to Midnight, who is on the back of that Ballina Ash Duncan train now. So Midnight just getting his Alpha Tauri on the back of those cars. When will these drivers start thinking? Coming off a set of mediums, are they going to go for the soft tyres and stay out a bit longer, or are they going to try something completely different and go for the hards? I imagine the majority were going for the softs at the end, and it should be lightning fast to see what they can do as Ash again gets close, not using a lot of ERS. Ballina, I think, locking up the front and the rears there at separate points. He was all over the show in the braking into that turn 12, and that is going to start wearing your tyres down pretty quickly, and that's the last thing you want to do at this stage in the race.
Almost certainly. You don't want to really wear down your tyres, and this probably could be a problem for Yost and Jordan right now, sitting in the dirty air of Wilson right now. And that may be a little bit of trouble for their tyres, getting a little bit of that dirty air on them as well. Perhaps trying to push a little bit more to keep within the DRS of each other. Of course, Wilson and Yost more than likely look like they're pushing a little bit more, considering the penalty they've got. As Balin is the first to pit, he's the first one to come into the pits onto the soft tires. Okay, so that confirms a 2-stop for the McLaren driver then, as he will move back. So interesting strategy, and I wasn't expecting someone to go for that 2-stop, and well, Balliner has decided to give it a shot and see how it goes.
Yeah, he has come out just behind Bankai Bolle, but luckily for him, there's no real DRS train towards the back of that field, and he's going to have to push like crazy to use those soft tyres. Will that cause any reactions from those behind him? Ashbest's now got Duncan all over the back of him. All of a sudden, those hard tyres, he probably in the first few laps was thinking, why on earth have I chosen this set of hard tyres? They're probably feeling very good. Roundabout now, DRS open on the back of the Williams. We've actually seen the odd Williams battle a Ferrari this season, and now we're getting it on F1 2021 as well. Duncan down the inside into 4th position. He, of course, will be going very long in the race and going for that set of soft tyres. Balliner's already worked his way past Bankai. He is up into 12th place, and I don't think it'll be too long before he's getting past Moritz and then onto the back of those in the top 10. Are we going to see any of our lead trio? We haven't talked about them for a bit because they've just been out there on their own, and you can see how hard Balliner's pushing by the fact that he's got a penalty. But no, those front 3 drivers all sticking out there. Will Asher Midnight react to what the McLaren has done? No, they stay out as well. I've got to be honest, I wasn't expecting anyone to give the 2-stop a go going into this race, but Balliner, maybe he's tried it out, maybe he's seen how bad the hard tyres are and thought, you know what, I've got to try something different in this race. It's a social race, might as well experiment.
Oh yeah, I'm sure a lot of drivers will be thinking about experimenting, and I'm sure it wasn't purposely experimenting, but Midnight perhaps experimenting his pace from the back of the grid, and well, I tell you what, that experiment is going absolutely beautifully right now as he is on the back of Ashbest, as he does cut the corner there though, quite considerably. But Duncan right now, he'll be feeling quite comfortable. He's got those hard tyres, which are now, in my opinion, probably looking much better than those medium tyres, and he will look to try and close in on the top 3 as well. He's slightly gained a little bit of time, but it won't be easy. They're all still in that long train, and no one seems to be looking for an overtake in Yost or Jordan's case. But Duncan does seem to be showing some good pace, and he has got well away of Ashbest right now, who obviously will come under pressure from Midnight behind him, and Kryptonite as well, 6 seconds behind. He's fended off World Rally, he's fended them off quite well, and it looks like he's going to be keeping it at P7 until the pit stops, but World Rally could come back. But yeah, interested from Balliner, and he does know that he needs to make the most of these soft tyres now if he's going to be anywhat impactful. As there we go, another penalty for the top 3, and that's all the top 3 with penalties now, as Balliner goes down the inside on the Alpine of S2V Law there. So Balliner moving up another place there, and the next driver up ahead is Panos, his teammate in the other McLaren.
Yeah, teammate on the game. Not sure whether there have been any communications between them, of course. We'll have to wait and see. But Balliner, reigning F2 champ, taking it in that crazy, ridiculous F2 season finale we had last season, where there were 7 different drivers with the possibility of winning it going into the final F2 race, where Jess and Owen, the commentators for that, they will be commentating again over F2 this season at 7 p.m, most likely on a Monday. Oh, Jordan out of the race. Well, Jordan is out of this race. That is coming through turn 8 and 9. Perhaps another car just losing it on all the tyres, or losing it, or having that ERS just using overtake a bit too early. But that is a big shocker, and that obviously puts Hughes under a lot less pressure, and he might think now it might as well be worth having a go at Wilson. Gets very close to the back of him. Fabi retires in the pits. We are down to just 13 cars, Sam.
A lot of drivers perhaps it's just been a little bit more mistakeful, but we said about this last time out in Silverstone, or it was quite evident to see the drivers are making more mistakes. It was so much easier to lose the rear end. The cars are way more snappier now than last game, and they are way more obviously inconsistent as well. So there will be mistakes from these drivers where they're maybe overdriving the car a little bit, maybe when they're just getting too early on the throttle in the corners, and particularly with these tyres being a little bit older than what they're usual. Since a lot of these drivers haven't really had much league racing for a long time, perhaps it's a little bit of rustiness with these tyres, because I'm sure a lot of these guys haven't done too much practice for this. It is of course a social race, so I mean the tyres are obviously definitely different this game compared to last game, and perhaps once it start getting weird a little bit, these drivers perhaps starting to make a few more mistakes. And I mean, that's good to see, because last game it just seemed like it was too easy and the drivers were just following each other each lap. And you know, you barely saw any spinners, you barely saw any drivers make mistakes and go onto the grass. It just used to be follow, follow, follow. But now it does seem like drivers could actually, with a click of a finger, be out of this race. So yeah, so for Jordan, very unfortunate. But again, it's another example that this game definitely is showing us something really different. And well, Ballina, I just want to mention, really good move up the inside of his teammate there. Not really necessary or orthodox, really. It's not a corner you would see overtaken, but he's on a flyer right now.
Yeah, unfortunately for Jordan, the different thing this game was showing for him was a pedals glitch, and there has been a few drivers saying with different wheel manufacturers, I've heard it with Fanatec, I've heard it with Thrustmaster as well, that they're just not working quite right. So hopefully that does get sorted before the league racing season starts in just under a month's time. But yeah, such a shame for Jordan, running in third place, and it looks like his pedals have glitched and took him out of this race, as Ballina now all alongside World Rally, round the outside there. You don't really see too many moves, but extra grip on the soft tyres, why not try it? Round the outside into 15, that is Ballina up into 7th place, and I don't think Kryptonite will be able to hold him on for much longer. The McLaren absolutely flying through the field. He's only 20 seconds off the lead at this moment in time.
Yeah, he's absolutely enjoying those soft tyres. I think even if these guys were to pit right now, I think Ballina wouldn't actually be far off the lead. In fact, he may actually lead this race temporarily on those soft tyres. That just shows how good those softs are. So, I tell you what, watch out for him at the end of this race. He could actually be quite deadly for some of these drivers near the front. And not only him, Duncan as well, because Duncan surely will be going for that hard, soft strategy. And surely these guys are now going for a medium soft strategy. But, I mean, I don't know. Are those medium tyres actually good enough to make it onto the softs? I don't know, because Ballina's gone for something rather interesting, and he did look like he was starting to struggle on those tyres a bit. So we're still yet to see all these guys pit, but the soft tyres definitely working for VRT Ballina right now.
Yeah, Ballina, almost like you saw teams doing testing where they go for a bit of glory runs just to get their names out there and just getting themselves seen. Well, Ballina's provided all the action at this moment in time, trying something different, and he's having a very entertaining race, I imagine, for himself and also us watching, in 6th position at the moment. But how long can he get those soft tyres to last to go on to that second set of softs towards the end of the race? And when will we start seeing the first of the lead cars coming in? Wilson and Hughes coming up to the back of Corsair. He is a ghost car, so that won't be a problem, and I believe the Alfa Romeo pulling well out of the way. He does not want to have any say in that whatsoever. 13 laps remaining then. It is Wilson, Hughes, Duncan, your top 3 drivers. Panos has had a spin, and that is coming out of turn 15, and that is a broken front wing, so he'll have to come into the pits for a set of soft tyres, which probably aren't going to make it until the end of the race, unfortunately for him, unless he does want to go onto the hards, but then he'll have no pace whatsoever. So a shame for the McLaren driver, who was having quite a consistent race, I think it is fair to say, at that moment in time, if not perhaps showing too much pace. But he's in 11th, his teammates flying up the field in 6th place. I said he was 20 seconds off the lead. He's now 18.7, and he's passed the car in all of that, as we've got another yellow flag, and I think that is just Panos slowing down as Bankai Bullet comes into the pits. First driver from the mediums to go onto that set of soft tyres. So we'll see how he can do. He's clearly trying to pull a bit of an undercut on some of those ahead of him.
Yeah, most certainly. Yeah, I think Bankai Bullet at the moment going onto the soft tyres, and we've seen how good they are with Ballina. Let's just see how he does on those soft tyres. Perhaps he's seen, or he's got someone in his ear, like an engineer or something, telling him about the soft tyres and how Ballina's doing with them, or he's just obviously seen the pace and everything, and it seems to be going well. So for Bankai Bullet, he's definitely going to get past Moritz, but will he have enough to get past Laura? Will Laura react early enough for that not to be the case? And Kryptonite and World Rally are battling still. They've had an almighty battle this race, haven't they, together?
Oh yeah, I think we've pretty much seen the 4 of the customer teams dueling it out almost since the start of this race. They had Midnight in there as well. He managed to get past them. Ballina got past as well, as World Rally's gone completely wide through the first part of that triple right-hander at turn 16's. Lost himself a lot of time there. I was almost looking around to see if he had a puncture, but no, he's deciding now is the time to come into the pits, and others have a smile. Midnight and Ashbest also into the pits. Law coming in as well. That should comfortably cover off Bankai Bullet for him. But Ash into the pit in 6th position. Used gets himself another penalty. So that is bad news for him. And you know what? That extra penalty for Hughes, now that he's on 6 seconds, might just bring Duncan into play here. If Wilson Hughes picks up another penalty, the Williams driver might have a fantastic chance to claim this victory.
Yeah, and Wilson knows. He knows Yost is going to be trying to get by and trying to get that gap to Wilson fairly quickly. Of course, these two have still got a pit at the moment. Ash, Midnight have both pitted. Law's pitted now, and he did come out ahead of Bankai Bullet. Well, quite clearly, of course. And World Rally has got a bit of traffic with Maurice, and Maurice is actually ahead of Bankai Bullet, so I don't know how. I think. Oh, he hasn't even. Well, he's pitted, but he's onto the mediums. But it should be quite easy for World Rally. And look at him. Look at the pace of those softs compared to the mediums now. And that's 3-lap-old mediums as well. That's not like they're completely worn and done. Those soft tyres are absolutely. They are flying right now, and I'm sure Yost and Wilson will know that. Fortunately, they are so far ahead of these guys, they don't need to worry about it too much. But Duncan, still staying out of those hard tyres. Is that going to come back at him at the end of this race, potentially?
Yeah, he's going to lose a bit of pace now, but he's in the lead of this race. Ballina coming through the final corner. Is he going to get himself ahead of Wilson and Hughes here? Hughes did get ahead of Wilson on that last lap, has stayed ahead in the pits, and there we go. Ballina in 2nd place, lead car out of all those that have pitted. Not the net leader, because there's absolutely no chance he's getting towards the end of this race on that set of soft tyres. He's going to have to do another pit stop, and that would put him out just behind Ash Best at this moment in time. But Ballina in 2nd, Used in 3rd, Wilson 4th, Duncan in the lead. What could help decide Used and Wilson's race here is how quickly can they get past that McLaren on the older tyres, because you can see now that grip that the McLaren had earlier on has completely gone and used all over the back of him, even through Sector 1, where we see a lot of dirty air affecting the car behind.
Yeah, I think it's easy for Yost to get by him. Wilson maybe as well. Wilson will be closing in, and he is definitely attacking now. He's using his ERS to catch up to Ballina. Ballina getting straight into the...
Oh!
A little bit of contact there. Maybe that was a bit late there from Ballina, but has that caused damage for Wilson? And this could completely compromise his race then. He's still stuck behind the McLaren, side by side through the corners. Is he going to switch him on the inside? Oh, yes, he is. Of course he is. He's not going to be very happy with that, is Wilson? No, he's lost a bit out of time there for Yost, and in fact, it's out of the DRS. So if Yost has now got this pace and everything, much more than Wilson at the moment, well, particularly if Wilson has got that damage, Yost perhaps is back into this race, but a little bit of loss of composure there from Ballina, and maybe a little bit of a panic. And I think Wilson's just got another penalty there, so we're literally back down to pace-wise now, as Duncan has come into the pits, so he'll be onto the soft tyres. He'll be looking to finish on the podium in this race.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if Wilson didn't get a bit of damage, and I can't imagine the Sparks squad are going to be too happy about that. Yes, I've given the 2-time reigning champion, I've given him a fan club, and I've given it a name as well. This is what happens when you don't have commentary people. You have to come up with something to try and entertain yourself in the gap between the league racing season. World Rally's picked up a penalty and set himself the fastest lap at the same time, as we've got a yellow flag there. I'm not sure if that's a car just going slowly, trying to get out of the way of all of the trying to get out of the way of all of the faster cars, I should say, around him. That might have been Koser just getting out of the way, but he's Wilson leading. Well, Wilson in 2nd, I should say. Hughes leading. Bankai Bullet, he manages to work his way past Moritz. That medium... Leave Moritz did start on a set of the soft tyres, so that is why he's now on the mediums, but he is dropping down the field. We'll be very surprised if he can get any higher than that 11th place he is in now. Maybe penalties might just save his day. That one extra lap for Duncan. He's now in 6th position. Yes, he's got no penalties, but Ash and Midnight only have 1 lap older tyres than him, and Duncan is just not quite worked out, I'm afraid, for him. And Ash is in the DRS as Midnight, and that might help drag him along. It's going to be tough for Duncan. He still managed to keep it clean at this moment in time. No penalties would bump him up ahead of Ballina and Midnight and Ash Best as well, actually, at this moment in time. As there we go, Ballina does have to come into the pits. That is going to drop him behind Duncan. So that's for Williams up into 5th place, but he's going to have to do some overtakes and use that 1 lap extra freshness if he wants to take the victory here with 9 laps remaining.
Yeah, perhaps Duncan's kicking himself a little bit there, because he was on for a podium, but obviously, as we've just established, he stayed out for a lap longer, and that's cost him around 2 seconds of time, almost, to the guys ahead of him. But at the moment, he has closed in a significant amount to Ash Best and also to Midnight as well. So Duncan really is on a charge, but yeah, a bit of a mistake there for the Williams driver. I was about to say Alpine, but he's in the Williams, isn't he? But he will definitely look to claw that back. And you know, as we said earlier, there's a lot of experimentation going on, isn't there? Duncan trying the hard to soft strategy. Perhaps he didn't believe in the medium to soft strategy and if it would work or not. And you know, it hasn't really paid off for him, but he is definitely trying a few things, and he knows now that these soft tires are very good. As here comes Ash Best. Is he going to look for a move on Midnight? No, just sit behind him. A bit surprised about that. He had a lot of momentum going to that corner, but yep, Ash Best just sitting behind Midnight for now. And you know, as we said about Duncan, he's clawing right back in with those new fresh softs.
Yeah, these drivers battling might actually help Duncan if he can get past him. If Midnight and Ash Best get in each other's way, that might be the perfect situation for Duncan, but Midnight looks as though he's just managed to hold on for that position for now. Ash not able to follow, obviously, through 16, 17 and 18. Back towards the lead 2 then in this race. 8 laps remaining, used half a second ahead of Wilson. When he got ahead in the sprint race, Wilson only really had one chance to fight back and wasn't able to do so. How will he manage his tyres? Further back, Ballina picks himself up another 3-second time penalty, so it looks like 6th place is the best he will be able to do. I would expect him, no offence to Kryptonite, I would expect him to be able to pull out that extra 8/7 of a second over the remaining 8 laps, especially with the tyre freshness as well. Got an interesting battle for the lead. We've got an interesting battle for the final podium places as well. And a bit like earlier on, Kryptonite's got some defending to do. This time, though, is S2V Law all over the back of the Alfa Romeo.
Kryptonite has not really had a break, has he? In this race, he had World Rally for the entirety of that first stint, and you know, as soon as he's probably thought he got away with that, and perhaps has a little bit of time to chill, no, back to work for him, and Laura's right behind him, and you know what, Laura's going to be having a lot of momentum right now. He's using some of the overtake to keep within Kryptonite, so expect potentially an overtake on this back straight for him as we look further forward. Duncan going on the inside of Ash Best. Now he's got to take it around the outside. This is difficult, and yep, that was looking like it was coming. The physics of this game doesn't really help that driver on the inside, and there goes Ash Best. He has spun round. Luckily, it looks like he can keep 5th place because Ballina does have a lot of pens, but I think Ash Best would be rather annoyed with that. He was still in that battle with Duncan and Midnight, but Duncan most certainly will be looking to attack on Midnight as soon as possible and get onto that podium place despite not having a penalty, but just in case, of course, that happens.
Yeah, Midnight has about 40% more DRS though at this moment in time, so that might help him negate that effect of the DRS, of course, because it won't be too far down the main straight where Duncan does start clipping once you get to that 10%. I can't imagine Brett would have been too happy in a full race, in a league race, if that had been Duncan and Ash making contact there, but Ash almost a carbon copy of Vettel and Ricciardo in 2018, except this time there was a bit of contact to force the Ferrari round. Still, 5th place, not a bad performance whatsoever for Ash, who did pick up a podium last season in PSGL. I'm sure he'll be hoping that he can maybe pick up the odd podium, maybe even a race win in season 29. But here comes the Williams then, ERS on, just for a quick little burst at the start of the straight, opens up the DRS, and is Midnight actually going to be able to do anything here? He is using up some of that electrical energy from that Honda power unit. Down the inside though goes Duncan, very light on the brakes, don't think he's going to get that one stopped in time. Midnight gets the position back, and every time they battle, that's just another lap that Duncan's stuck behind, and the chances of him getting this victory just seem to have ebbed away now ever so slightly. He really needed to make that move cleanly straight away, not able to do so. Midnight holds on to that 3rd position.
I don't think it would have been on for him anyway, because I think we were all surprised. Like, we didn't know that the medium soft would have worked for these drivers, but it has to have obviously worked because all these drivers have been able to get off the mediums onto the soft tyres and will be going to the end. But if they did to the medium hard, then it would have obviously been crucial for Duncan to get that move, but he will be going back at Midnight here again, and I think he'll be cruising a little bit. He won't be trying to attack too much, he won't be too aggressive. You know, he knows Midnight's not going to get the DRS anytime soon. He can just sit behind Duncan, just stick behind quite close to Midnight, and just try and overtake him in the coming laps. But it does look like Duncan does have the pace, and if he's got the confidence, he may overtake him this lap and just try to pull away. But if that doesn't work, then, well, Midnight will most likely get this podium then in the end. So it's going to be very close right to the end between those two.
Yeah, it is indeed. Of course, that penalty the penalty for Midnight's 2 penalties might just cost him in the end here. Law's managed to work his way past Kryptonite, and that is, they're both on 3-second penalties, so that is for position. Law is now up into 7th. We'll see if he can get away from Kryptonite, or whether the attacking abilities of Krypton have been as good as his defending. Duncan a bit earlier on the brakes this time, manages to hold the line into turn 12. He is up into 3rd place, and we saw Midnight pull off some fantastic moves earlier on. Let's not forget, he started stone dead last. 16 places gained. It's been an absolutely fantastic performance. Those first few laps for Midnight, a lesson to anyone, I imagine, his POV of how to pick your way through a field on the first couple of laps. Can he do anything off track after penalties? Probably not. But can he do anything on track? Stop that Williams, get into podium place. Can the other AlphaTauri, if Wilson Hughes in the final 5 laps, take the victory in this social race?
Well, possibly. Midnight will probably need a miracle to get the podium now. Obviously, with Duncan being so consistent and not getting any penalties and everything, it looks like it'll be very difficult for Midnight to get that 3rd place. It'll have to be some sort of scenario where Duncan perhaps makes a big mistake and goes off and loses so much time or something. But they're looking so quick, these two. They're looking very pacey. And they're enjoying life where they are, 3rd and 4th place, and I'm sure Midnight will just settle for 4th place, really. He knows he's had the pace today, he knows he's been with Duncan for most of this race, and of course Duncan having a strategy that didn't really work. Perhaps he'll be a little bit more annoyed than what Midnight is, and Midnight will come out of this with a lot of confidence. He won the last one, and, you know, for him, this one probably is a bit of a win for him, as he does seem to overtake him then into turn 12. Should be nice and easy overtake, but again, I do expect these two to be battling side by side for the next couple of laps, but the penalties kind of do drain that away. But with these two, they'll be confident for different reasons. Duncan's had a good race performance here today, sticking it in 4th place and, you know, staying where he is. And Midnight, of course, just making up the positions, and they'll be quite valuable for him going into the league racing season, which is still only a couple of weeks away, but he's looking confident right now, is Midnight.
Yeah, but it has been a pretty good performance, like we said, from Midnight, especially after the way he started this, well, start of a sprint race, obviously getting that damage as Ballina picks up another penalty. Who knows, maybe Midnight could have been battling with his teammate and used at the front of the field. And Ballina, yes, he's got 12-second penalties, but he has shown some supreme pace on this 2-stop strategy all over the back of Ash Best here. Is he going to go for one down the inside into turn 1, just a bit too far behind the McLaren on the back of the Ferrari? McLaren, of course, winning the first race here in 2012 with Lewis Hamilton taking the victory, and that was, I believe, his final victory in the end for McLaren, as Midnight now picks up another 3-second time penalty, just solidifying Duncan's hold on that 3rd place after penalties even more. There's been a lot of drivers, I think, who'll take some good credit from this race. Those in the top 6, I think, will be fairly happy with how things have gone, and you would expect those 5 of them being from F1 last season and Ballina being the F2 champion. Not too surprising to see them at the front of the field.
Yeah, I think a lot of drivers will take a lot of happiness from this, really. I'm sure a lot of drivers will be quite happy from this. Of course, Yost and Wilson showing their typical pace at the front of the field, of course, both really showing that they're going to be challengers for this title already. Midnight, obviously a brilliant comeback from the back of the grid, really. A quality race for him as well. And Duncan and Ballina as well. Ballina, although it hasn't been the best of races penalty-wise, he has had some good pace on these soft tyres, and he's made the 2-stop work. Really, let's be real, considering obviously where he started and where he was about the top 5, he'd be quite happy with that. And I think Ashbest has had a fairly decent race as well, and probably quite unfortunate to be where he is right now, with obviously that collision with Duncan. But another one to note is obviously Jordan, who obviously retired. Unfortunately for him, he did have obviously a pedal problem or a pedal glitch, apparently, which is unfortunate. And I think he was keeping with the 2 leaders. It would have been an almighty battle to see him there. But yeah, I think a lot of these drivers at the front, they'll be very happy with their performance, and I'm sure Kryptonite will be very happy with his race as well. Just typically because he's had a lot of action really in this race. He's probably been having a lot of fun this entire race.
Yeah, he has indeed. He nearly had to go back at law there into turn 12 last time around, but couldn't quite get that manoeuvre done, and he's picked himself up another 3-second time penalty. So even if he does get the manoeuvre done, probably not going to be able to do much about it. Duncan on the back of Midnight, then expect to see these swapping all the way until lap 28. This time it's the Williams who comes out on top, up into third position. World Rally gets a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane, and he retires from the race. So 11 cars. Corsair, I mean, credit to Corsair. He's been on his own pretty much from the start of this race, but he's still going around, of course, just learning things about the game, I suppose. You can't get anything like this just in Grand Prix mode, especially not in time trial. You've got to do it in an online lobby, so a good learning from him.
I mean, I think he's left the session, Luke. I'm not entirely sure, but I think he's left the session.
Well, it's good learning for the Codemasters AI at least, you know. There's some neural network stuff going on here.
Yeah, most certainly. I think it's obviously some good learning for them. That unfortunately, the AI though doesn't seem to be very competitive against the top 10 of these guys. Of course, not even competitive enough to be ahead of World Rally at the moment. But yeah, that is his AI. That's not Corsair, I don't think, in the car. You can see really through the hand movements of the cockpit there. But just looking further forward, there's still a lot of battles really going on the track. Let's just ignore penalties right now. Let's just ignore them. Let's just believe they're not there right now, because most of these drivers would be clean when it comes to an actual league race, and there's still battles going on, really, isn't there, for all sorts of places up on the track. And you know, Yost and Wilson, they are on the same penalty, so technically it is still the same race that they're racing against each other. And Wilson and Yost just sitting there, but I wonder if Wilson is just waiting for that final lap just to overtake Yost. But we've seen this before. We saw this at Belgium. It was very close between those two back last season in PSGL. I think it was Yost. It was either Yost or Jordan, but I think it was Yost. But yeah, there was a little bit of controversy between those two last time, and I would have thought with this being a social race, you won't see that controversy. But Wilson, I think, has had a little bit of a mistake there and has ended up losing a lot of time to Yost. So maybe that battle is done for this final lap, but a lot of battles still to be completed. Law still trying to catch Kryptonite.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happened there. I think maybe just coming out of turn number 19, I don't know whether Wilson ran a bit wide and had to lift off to maybe avoid getting an extra warning. Maybe he's only one away from a penalty, and obviously an extra 3 seconds, he'd have had absolutely no chance in this race. Kryptonite back ahead of Law, so he's in 7th place. Can he hold on for that final lap? It looks like Duncan, that extra freshness in the tyres, is now starting to pay off as he has broken the DRS to Midnight, and Wilson's nearly outside of DRS here of Yost. He's just managed to stay within that magical 1 second point as Midnight picks up a time penalty trying to get back within that 1 second point. Yost though looks calm, looks nice and collected at the front of the field. Looks like he's going to hold on, barring any mistakes, barring any penalties at the moment. Law picks up another 3 second time penalty, which I think puts him and Kryptonite back on the same as well, so it might be a good 7th place for the Alfa Romeo driver here. But into the final few corners now of this circuit, the Mercedes just hanging on from the AlphaTauri of Wilson at this moment in time. There's no real opportunity for the rest of the lap as through the final couple of corners comes the Dutchman, comes VSR Yost, who was second in season 27. He's staking his claim maybe to this season once it starts. Yost takes the victory. Wilson cross of a line in 2nd place, just behind him. Duncan on the different strategy takes 3rd place. Fair play to being the only driver to not get any penalties in this race. Comes home in 3rd. Midnight, a great performance from him from last position, as there comes Ballina. He is in 5th place at the moment, and I think he's actually run out of fuel there as he heads towards the line, and Ash Best manages to jump ahead of him. Law will finish behind Kryptonite. They'll cross the line 7th and 8th. Bankai and Moritz will be the final finishers. Plenty of action in that race, plenty of good battles as well. Mainly clean. There were a few tiny bits of contact, especially with Duncan and Ash, but Yost, he got that move done before the pit stops, and then it just looked like he was able to stretch his gap out at the important points onto this main straight. Wilson really wasn't able to have a realistic challenge for the win.
Yeah, I think Wilson, he done a brilliant job staying there the whole race. Of course, we've seen the dirty air, how much it has an effect on these cars now, and of course, you know, we were expecting mistakes from these drivers behind other drivers, of course, and you know, that happened. And with Wilson and everything, he didn't really make any mistakes really behind him. He kept it very consistent behind Yost, really close to him. Maybe he is kind of regretting not making the move perhaps a little bit earlier, because that last lap with those tyres, it was always going to be difficult. always going to be difficult to make an overtake because those tyres were almost but dead really at that point on the softs. And obviously Wilson understeering into the the penultimate corner, which may have cost him a race win here. But, he did say the other day, it is only a social race. It won't really matter to him. Of course, he is going after his third title this season. And I tell you what, the top three, they all look very confident. And, we're in for a really good season, aren't we, ahead?
Yeah, definitely. And some of those that didn't finish the race, we might be able to talk about towards the end as well, what their hopes would be for the rest of the season. But it was used, despite the 6 seconds of penalties, managing to take the victory here. Wilson in second, Duncan rounding out the top 3 after starting on that set of hard tyres. Midnight, 20th to 4th. He might be one to watch this season as well. Ash Best in 5th, Kryptonite in 6th, ahead of Ballina in the end. So a great job from Kryptonite to finish in 6th position. That's 22 seconds of penalties, I believe, there for Ballina, costing him quite a bit towards the end of this race. Law in 8th, Bankai Bully and Moritz the only finishers. Corsair was a AI driver, and then World Rally, Panos, Jordan, Fabi, Marcus, Kilcree, Falcon Nardi, Casper and Tony all retiring from the race, of course. Shame to see that many retirements, but just drivers getting used to the game, a few bugs with pedals and stuff. It's probably to be expected in the early stages, but despite only having 10 finishers, those 10 finishers provided some absolutely fantastic on-track battles.
Yeah, there's a lot of good battles, of course. Some people win more battles than others, of course. Wilson and Yost going right to the end, really, with their battle. They were near each other all race. Shame we didn't see Jordan because, of course, it's different. When you've got 2 drivers and everything, they just follow each other. When you've got that 3rd driver and everything, perhaps they're a little bit more desperate to take that 2nd place because they know they're in the prime position then. So it was a shame not to see Jordan in the fight for the whole race, of course. Obviously, again, having a brake problem, of course, that weren't really his fault, of course, at the end of the day. But it is a shame we didn't see that three driver battle, but Yost and Wilson gave it a right old go at the end. And, it was a really good battle for those two. Duncan and Midnight, brilliant races from Midnight, really. And Duncan kept it nice and consistent to get that podium in the end. And, of course, Midnight really close to a podium after starting from the back of the grid. Shows real potential in his overtaking skills, most certainly, and his pace in the race as well. And we've seen 2 social races now, and I'm sure, we kind of have an idea where some of these drivers, like Midnight, like Yost, like Wilson, where they'll be this season, because they have had that same sort of similar result, that same sort of performance, and, they look like they are going to be the ones to watch for this season. But obviously, we still haven't seen everyone at the top, and, there is still some interesting hidden names, perhaps, who could be in the frame for this title this season.
Yeah, definitely. Who knows if anyone can pop up. There'll be some of those in the lower tiers as well, waiting to see what they can do. That's not the end of the PSGL social action. There'll be the 2nd Esports Invitational with George Morgan and Jack Canine on Thursday. I believe that race starting at 8 p.m. for them on the PC platform. That will be around the Circuit de Catalunya. Not the best circuit in real life, but will provide plenty of fantastic racing. I'm sure there'll be plenty of other PC and PS social races as well, so make sure to keep an eye on the Premier Sim Gaming League's Discord and on the Twitter page as well. But for myself and Sam, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you again soon. If we don't see you before the 16th of August, which is of course the first round for the top tiers, hope you have a nice rest of the month. But for myself and Sam, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.